listening to Who's Tom and Dick, a weekly podcast with your hosts, Martin Weavers, fighting stage 4 lung cancer, and Patrick Mortimer, living with heart disease. Why not grab yourself a cup of coffee, sit back, and enjoy the chatter as we discuss and share information, talking about tough subjects, and offering help, support, and motivation with a positive mental attitude.
Good morning and welcome to Who's Tom and Dick on this Friday morning, and I'm joined by my old mate, Martin. How are you today, Martin?
I'm doing fine, thank you, Patrick. Yourself?
I'm doing well, thanks, mate. Well, today we've got another guest joining us on our show. We've been inundated with guests recently. Robert is an actor, and one of his most recent roles was in a public information film about symptoms and signs of a heart attack. A little while after the release of this film, Robert suffered a heart attack himself, and he joins us today to tell us his story and how his recent role probably saved his life. So I'd like to welcome Robert McCafferty.
So good morning, Robert, and thanks very much for agreeing to come on the podcast. And perhaps just for our listeners, you could let us know a little bit about your career.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's been a challenging change of career, really. I wanted to be an actor when I was a kid, but coming from the slums of Glasgow, you know, I was born in the Gorbals, literally a house birth in a tenement block, and I think it was quite hefty, £13. To poor Irish Catholic descendant family, one of 6. So when it came to me performing, which I enjoyed doing at the school, and I just loved being on stage, it was great. And I did some amateur dramatic stuff in Livingston in Scotland, where I did most of my growing up, one of the new towns, a bit like Stevenage and Bracknell and all them. We were doing a really famous musical of the 60s called Charlie Girl. I don't know if you're familiar with it or not. And it was good. I loved doing it. And it's meant to be a motorbike gang, but me and all my mates were mods at the time, so we had like scooters. And the director was like, we'll have mods instead of rockers in our version. I can remember us doing it, and the director, I think something went wrong, and I kind of made it right. And then she was like, have you ever thought about doing this, you know, like more? And I was like, yeah, always. I love doing it. Like straight back home to my really poor parents, you know. I really want to do acting. This director thinks I'm pretty decent and all that. And like, well, we can't afford that. You know, that's for rich people. But, you know, in some ways, there was an element of pragmatism about it as well. They said, it's no way to earn a living, he said. And that was way back in like 1980 or something. So took my parents' advice, got a real job, got married, had kids, worked in distribution for a fair amount of time, built up a career there, starting off as a transport clerk and working my way up to running distribution centres. But in my early 30s, I had gone back to Scotland to work for Asda as a transport manager. And I can just remember it, one of the days I was walking in to the depot, and I was like, put the mask on. And that was kind of like the moment that I thought, you know, I mean, I'm acting. Everybody's acting, as Shakespeare says, isn't it? All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. And, you know, so I was like, I came down here where I am now in North Hertfordshire to visit my brother who was living in Baldock. And he's a musician. He'd always been, as a teenager, he was a drummer. And he was still doing it. He was broke. You know, he was doing van deliveries and stuff. And but he was happy. Broke, but being a musician, being an artist. And we were getting drunk on my money and having barbecues and stuff in the blistering sun because it was the summer. And he said, why don't you be an actor? It's what you always wanted to do. Now you're like, by this stage I was split up from my wife. And I went, you know what? Funk it. I'm going to give it a try. So I auditioned for my training at the University of Hertfordshire and unbelievably got in. I was like, I'll give it a go. Do you mean I can say I gave it a go? I auditioned and got in as a mature student. And did my 3 years. Did some additional training at the likes of RADA and the Actor Centre. Eventually got an agent, but not too long of waiting. I think it was fortunate that I had done the short course in RADA. Yeah. And I thought, you know, if I've got RADA on my CV, somebody's going to look at it. You know what I mean? So I put it just right at the top, and then my actual University of Hertfordshire underneath it. So these guys phoned me in. They're going, oh, when I went in for the meeting, what was your alumni then from RADA? And I was yeah, I did a couple of weeks training courses. So yeah, acted the hell out of that one, and they were like, you know what, we've not got anybody because like a big 6'3" Scotsman. We don't have anybody like you, so we'll take you on. And she said to me, I can remember it so clearly still. Well, nobody's going to know you, Robert. You're like in your mid-30s. Everybody that's your age now have been doing it for since they were kids. Neil Morrissey, all these kind of guys. And I was like, it is what it is. I've taken a big leap of faith here anyway, so I might as well just keep going with it. And then about 6 months later, I wasn't getting seen for anything. She went, right, we're going to have to fire you because we're not getting anybody. And I was like, well, hold on, Janet. You did say to me it would take 20 years before anybody realises who I am. We're only 6 months in, so can we just cut us a break here a little bit? Let's give me a few more months. And I think this again, it was in the summer. And I said to her, look, I'm a Cancerian, I'm a summer baby, and I usually tend to get a bit of luck. Luck tends to follow me in the summer, so let's see what happens. And she kind of bought that, which was great because 3 weeks later I got a job on EastEnders, and that was my first paid job. It was a day player, but it was great. It was beat just some gangster that young Dennis knew way back then, 2003, I think it was. It's a nice little tale because it's the guy who knew where Dirty Den was when he came back. Oh. And I had the privilege of coming on to the show and telling young Dennis and giving him the note as to the address where he was. That was my first paid professional job on. I've done other ones for like short films and stuff like that, but this was my first TV job for one of the big guys.
And you had a name on it, didn't you?
I did, yeah. Steve Stokes, yeah. There we go.
Yeah, I noticed that on the when I was looking you all up.
Yeah, thank you. I remember walking down the street in Letchworth and somebody was like, Stokesy!
That's when you know you've made it. We're still waiting for that, aren't we, Pat?
I mean, cheekily, after I had had my heart attack, I got an audition for a commercial while I was in there, which I did in the hospital. And then I came out on the Friday. I think I came out before they did my second stents, and I got an audition through on that Friday for an Apple TV series. And yeah, I was like, I was so exhausted, as you can imagine, Patrick. It's just like, oh, geez. And it was filming in Lithuania, and got that I actually did the audition like another time, and I nearly sent it to my agent. I went, nah, it's rubbish, still rubbish. I need to get this, like, I'm a professional here. It needs to go better than this. So I went, had a cup of tea and came back and I did it again and I got the job. So
when you go and fly now, do you have to pay more for insurance, or do you just book a flight and don't mention it?
I didn't even think it was a thing because, I mean, my son is, I'm fortunate in some ways, my son's a surgeon. So when I was in the hospital getting advice, I spoke to the guys. I don't know what your experience was, Patrick, but, the surgeons wanted to cut me open and the stent people wanted me to get stents, So, it's great because obviously these guys, like in my profession, you need some level of ego, and you think you can do a better job and all that kind of stuff. So we were able to, like, ask other surgeons, and it seemed like the general consensus with me being still young, 59, it was to go for the stents, especially as now the stents technology has improved so vastly. And like my son said, you're still so young, Dad. If these don't work out, then then let them cut you open, and do the bypass. But see how you get on. But I think he was probably more that for my 60th, he wanted to take me golfing up in Scotland. Yeah. But for himself as much as me, I guess, as well, because living in Australia and coming up, he was like really looking forward to my 60th birthday golf trip. And but I did the bypass, it wouldn't be happening.
So perhaps you could take us back then to, obviously you've done this TV advert, public safety film, and it's all about a man having a heart attack.
Yes, I mean, so again, that was like, it probably was just over 3 years ago now that I did that audition, and for that one, and I was like, I really liked the sound of the campaign anyway, because I know that in my family there was history of heart deaths. certainly my grandfather and my great uncle Patrick, his brother, had both died from heart disease. Both my parents are dead, but they had gone through cancer in their mid-70s. So I was kind of like, yeah, if I can get this, it would be nice. And it was a production company that I'd worked for before, doing an Eve Mattress commercial, which was more of a comedy job. So I knew the team, and I knew it was going to be very cinematic because they're very good at that kind of stuff. So I was really pleased that they remembered me, and that helped me get the job as well. It was my awesome audition, I'm sure. But it was interesting because the breakdown on it, which is basically the listing, the commercial, like you would get in a newspaper, if you like, an advert for a regular job saying this is what we're looking for. And it was saying about the heart attack thing and how it's going to be underplayed and all that kind of stuff, because that's the reality generally for most people. And I was like, well, that from a professional point of view, I was like, well, that'd be really interesting to play and find that. It was lucky because we had Nick Linker, Professor Nick Linker, he was on set with us all day, and he was the head honcho for the NHS cardio team in England, maybe even the UK, I'm not 100% sure on that, but he was fantastic. He was on set the whole day whilst I sat in that bonnet of that car, like feeling the impact of a heart attack and trying to keep it subtle, and if any signs of overacting, he was there to go, whoa, no, that's going to be too big. It's not that. There is that feeling of discomfort there. There is the level of anxiety. And the director, Barney Copelis, who did the job, he was great as well as a visionary, because, he did some really cool camera skills, like I think called a Dutch tilt, they call it. Dutch roll, sorry. And when it came to the bit where it's saying about having the anxiety whilst it's happening and the uncertainty, what he did with the camera, like, really gave it that kind of, a bit of a hippie trippy kind of job, which was pretty cool as well. Yeah, I was pleased that it came out, but I think the biggest satisfying thing for me was that I did it, and I kind of felt like on the day I was like, you mustn't forget any of this, Robert, because this is a lesson here that you may need to be called upon to help a friend, or even indeed help myself. And that's how it turned out.
Not having a heart attack and not experiencing a heart attack, what sort of direction were you given from the director about the symptoms and obviously the professor that was there?
Yeah, I mean, I think generally from memory, this is like nearly 4 years ago now that we actually did it. I mean, it was kind of those things, and the actual reality was when it first happened to me, I was like, is this indigestion? What is this? Is this heartburn? What's this, something rolling about here? And it also helped that I had a young lad called Malik who in the full-on green suit, for the CGI bit, and they had his, like, the same shirt that I was wearing. The costume department had made these fabulous gloves for him from the same fabric, so that was the only bit you could see of him. But he was behind me all the time, so that what he was doing to me gave that added little bit of extra guide to feel something. It wasn't all my imagination. He was literally like pressing a little bit on my chest to give me an element of what's that, and that's part of my job, to imagine that this is something different. And I know it's a guy doing it, but now I need to transfer that into, this is a medical issue here. What is that? Why does that thing feel like it's sliding across here? Am I going to burp? What's going on here? It's just like, oh, when you get that, it's interesting. I just read an article today or seen the headline come through today about drinking white wine to reduce cardiac issues. And I was like, white wine? Bloody stuff, man. Heartburn I get off that. Probably from the olden days, if you guys remember when they were putting bloody antifreeze in the Liebfraumilch, when that was about the only fancy exotic wine we used to get in the UK.
Yeah. How long after you'd done the acting role of it all did you have your heart attack?
Well, that was pretty much 3 years to the date since it actually aired. It aired on Valentine's Day 3 years ago, and I had my heart attack on the 15th of February. So it was, and it was really interesting because the thing about it for me was, like, I had just eaten a sandwich on the 12th tee, and I went down to get my ball to pick it up off out the hole, and I stood up and I went, oh, it's just the sandwich, and there's a bit of indigestion. I maybe ate it too quick or whatever. And usually what I would do is, like, give myself a little burp myself like a baby, I can doing it now. Even doing it now, I can feel there's a little bit of air in there that I'm like close to burping with. So none of that happened. Didn't even feel that there was anything rising there. But even doing that, that's when I definitely felt the clenching of all the muscle tissue underneath was going, yeah, like that. And I was like, this is actually, it's a bit like sweet and sour, isn't it? A bit like a dull, sharp ache,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it was dull because it wasn't, because it was also kind of sharp as well. It's like, and I was just like, no, it's a competition and I want to win. I might have to stop. No, if I catch somebody up who was ahead of me, and I was like, no. But anyway, that's my ego was getting in the way, and I just thought, right, okay, I'm going to have to just keep punching myself here, just keep this little thing going. And I thought I should maybe cough as well. But the other thing, the anxiety thing kicked in. Like it almost felt a little bit of that kind of spinning thing, but not really like when you're drunk, but like a little element of, that kind of stuff, right? Quite subtle.
Yeah.
The clubhouse was there, I thought I can make that. But the breathlessness then kicked in as well. And then I was like, and it was all on an incline up. And I'm like, I did 50 steps, maybe if you're lucky, to the middle of the 13th tees, and I just thought, I'm going to have to stop here. Like, let's say I was coughing, I was punching my chest, and I just thought, I'll lie down, I'll put my arms and legs up as a fainting thing, so you can make sure all the blood is going to the heart and not anywhere else. All that, I just thinking on my feet, on my back, what did I do to keep myself alive here? And then my young friend, Phil Lyons, who I was playing with, he had nipped into the toilet. I'll go for a quick pee, see, he came back down, he went, are you all right, Rob? And I was like, no, Phil, I think I'm having a heart attack, mate. And he did a full 360 and ran straight up to the clubhouse. And the clubhouse at Chesfield Downs were great. It was all the young staff that were on that day as well. So all these youngsters in their early 20s. 3 of them came down. They were brilliant, straight onto the ambulance, boom, organised. Fortunately, Joanne, my other half, she was on shift at the time. She was coaching. So the gym manager dashed up and told her that I was in some trouble down there. And she's a trained first aider as well for her job. So she came galloping down as well. And being a strong, independent woman in a man's sport, she was like, right, I'm in charge. So that kind of helped.
And he's my old man.
Yeah, exactly. And again, another bit of serendipity, a bit of luck. We had Lynn Sanford, she's a nurse. She was literally 2 groups behind on the golf course. So by the time that all this had happened, she was coming off the 12th and going, what's going on? She ran up, checking my pulse, all that kind of stuff. And again, another bit of luck. I meant to be here still because the ambulance was 10 minutes away. It was in Stevenage Old Town, just round the corner. So they got there pretty damn quick as well. And again, straight into the hospital, seen straight away. So I know it doesn't happen for everybody. And again, that's partly why, I made a point of speaking to the BBC and speaking to the NHS and speaking to you guys, is to share that message because, not everybody gets that luck, So I've been given this luck and it's something that I should hand back something, because the gods were like, felt it was the right thing to do to keep me alive for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
I just got to give back and share the word and say that life goes on if you can survive it, and you're more likely to survive it if you can identify and know straight away and go, yeah, this is different from indigestion, because you genuinely know. And I think for us blokes, and even me on the day, my ego was so trying to get in the way of me keeping on going, and man it out and keep going. There was like taking the piss out of me later on. Joanne was, like, what you like? You're on the 12th green, which is the closest green to the clubhouse, right? So I've got the 12th green, the 13th tee, the 18th green is just behind the 13th tee, the 10th tee's there, the first tee's there, and the putting green's there, and the balcony where everybody, so not the balcony, the patio, everybody on it going, all looking down. So literally, Mr. Actor here, got a full audience watching the performance, and did you take a bow on your way off, Bob?
Yeah. So the ambulance took you straight to hospital. did they put you into recovery and looked after you? And did you go straight into the theatre to have your stents, or?
No, I didn't, because it's one of the. This was the thing that I've got like people asking me how did it feel, like other men our age, that I play golf with, and they were all like astonished that it was me. They're all like, "What? Who hit what? He's fit.
Yeah.
What?" They're all a bit taken aback by it. So I've had quite a few of the guys since when I've been up there, because I've just been doing some putting and chipping at the minute in my recovery. They were all surprised. I'm saying, well, the thing is, when they even got me in the ambulance, because everything had settled down, and they gave me the spray under my tongue and everything, and the aspirin, ECG was fine.
Yeah.
They checked my heart with the ultrasound, and it was like, oh, you've got the heart of a horse. You know what I mean? And like, it's like bum, bum, bum. And the only way that you're going to see anything is by doing the angiogram.
Yeah.
And they were all like, it was almost like they were getting close to sending me home. You know what I mean? With nothing. And then they were kind of holding me in, because I was saying, no, I'm still feeling some discomfort. So they never sent me home, and I was there for about 4 or 5 days, and they were really busy. There was a lot of people coming. So I was like, I can deal with this. Do you know what I mean? But eventually I got seen after about 5 days. They did the angiogram, and that's when he said, oh, Christ, he's got like 3 blockages. And they said what they would normally do is put a stent in straight away if it was just the one or whatever. They just go without asking, they just go, right, okay, we've seen this, we put a stent in. But because it was 3 and some other minor ones, they were like, oh, well, we're going to have to speak to this guy now and see what he wants to do, because this is either a bypass or a couple of stents. Because they thought 2 stents at the time. When they pulled all the stuff out and had a look at it and had a chat with me, and that's when I spoke to my son and all the cardio people that they know, we know, spoke to them. My son actually spoke on the phone directly as well to him. And again, he was reassured by the fact that they were using new stents, better technology and all that stuff. So, I know 100% he cares about me, and it's not his ego that's getting in the way of being like, oh, we stents rule, we want to do it. No, the bypass people, we want to do it, So I went with the stents, and that's when they put in one of them, because the dye that they put in, as you'll probably know, Patrick, it's not really that good for your liver. Is it your liver or your kidneys? And so they didn't want to do too much, because they'd already done one for the first angio, and then a couple of days later they were doing the next one. So that, like, we're going to have to leave it a couple of weeks and let that stuff get out your system, and then come back and we'll put in the second one. And I was lucky as well, because they didn't do it through the groin; they just did it through my wrist. And you can see the 2 dots in there. I mean, nearly 3 months later, you can still see the 2 dots on there. And then they did the other arm for this one here. But this one here, the arm was all like bruised to hell, And it was like black and blue for like about 6 weeks or something.
Yeah, I was told that it was an easier route through the groin, because it's straight, whereas through the arm is a little bit more of a kink. I had my first 3 through the arm, and then I had my next ones through the groin. And the recovery is a lot quicker when it's through the arm, because it's basically a plaster.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas in the groin, it's in an area where you're moving about all the time, so you're always agitating the wound, so it takes a little bit longer to heal.
Well, it's just amazing how the body recovers in that bit. So they whack this thing into the vein anyway, like the funnel thing, to then put the wire into it. So they think nothing of it. So they end up with this massive, because I had a bit of a massive hematoma as well on this side here, so they put 2 of them little cup things around there to stop it bleeding and leave it on there. But it wasn't on really for that long. You think like, oh, they're going to have to leave it that for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And they're like, take it off. And then I was like, because it was such a bigger mess than that side, my son was saying, you still got that on? You need to get that off. Because I still had the plaster on it. I was scared to take it off.
Yeah.
I was going like this all over the place. He's going, it's fine, Dad. Just take it off. Let the air get to, let it recover properly.
So did you watch the operation on the screen?
The best I could on the first one. When they did the right arm, because the screen was on my left.
Right.
So when they did the right arm, I could see. But then when they did the left arm, all the contraptions were in the way, and I was trying to do that. And it was, oh, you need to stop moving, sir, and all that stuff. So I was like,
And did you feel anything in your chest?
No. I didn't. I definitely felt on the left one. I definitely felt it in my arm. That was really was quite uncomfortable. The left arm compared to the right. it's superficial, isn't it, really, when you think of the benefits of it.
Oh, yeah.
I was just like, ride it out. I think they said that I had a little faint for a couple of seconds when they did the very first one.
Yeah.
But I suspect, it was all done in a hurry. And they're like, "Oh, have you had breakfast?" I'm like, "Well, I had a banana about an hour ago and all that stuff." And normally they didn't want you to eat anything. So I don't know if that was related, but they knew the risks. I mean, I was more than happy to put myself in their hands, and their expertise shone through.
So how are you feeling now?
I feel really good. You know what I mean? I think the trouble for me is the medication. I've always tried, because my mum was always poorly. I think, having had so many kids so young and all that stuff, and poor Scottish diet. So I was always like acutely aware of, like, I don't want to be taking any medications that's man-made as long as I can, so that when I get to this age that I'm at now, that it might actually do something, because my body it'll be new to my body. And hopefully by the time we get to this 21st century, it's probably going to be a lot better for you anyway. They'll have learnt loads of stuff. But little things like getting up too quickly, before I was taking these blood thinners and all that other stuff and statins and stuff, it was like I'd get up and no problem. And now I'm like, whoa. And I'm having to just wait a second. Quite a lot.
Yeah.
Which took me by surprise. And generally, being a fit person, I think it was the statins or the beta blockers. I think it's the beta blockers, because I'm mildly asthmatic. It leaves me breathless a bit. You can probably hear it a bit raspy in my breath, which for my job isn't great. I just didn't take them for a few days. I had to do a voice audition, so I just didn't take them for a bit. Oh, and I'll tell you what, I felt great, But then I was like saying, "I should stop taking these." No, you got to keep taking them, Dad. But I was like, damn it, I find it a nuisance.
Yeah.
Because I haven't taken man-made drugs for so long, and I'm having to take them and rely on it to keep me bloody alive. I'm just like, and it makes total sense, because you don't want these little sheaths, blocking up with more stuff. So I mean, it's like you just got to stick with it and let the blood be the right kind of blood that makes sure that that doesn't block all them up. The plaque doesn't build up, and the stents, and it's something that's got to suffer for a bit. I'm not. Most of the drugs I won't be taking for life. He reckoned, and even his mate, when he was saying the Australian cardio guys, would probably only be on the meds for 3 months, but aspirin for life and stuff like that. I thought, I can cope with that. But because I put 3 stents, and he's like, well, maybe the reason they're saying for you to keep on the meds for a year, and it's a year, that peed me off as well when I was in for my assessment 2 weeks ago, and she was like, "Oh yeah, it'll be a year." And I was like, "Yeah, of course." So that's we're nearly 3 months. I've only got 9 more months. No, from the second stent, she said. And I went, "Oh." I just added another month. I was like, "Damn it! I just want to be back to being fit."
Yeah.
Put on half a stone, which is annoying me. I'm trying to get off, and I don't even feel like I'm eating less, but I'm getting heavier. It's really frustrating.
Yeah. Do you take a dissolvable aspirin?
No, I don't. No, what dissolve it? No, it's not. What do you mean, like effervescent one?
My cardiologist came round and he said to me, gave me a list of the drugs on one, and I said, "Oh, aspirins. I've heard a lot about those giving you ulcers in the gut." And he said, "Oh, this won't happen because we're giving you a dissolvable aspirin. You put it in your glass of water at breakfast time. That dissolves while you're having your cornflakes, and then you drink it.
Yeah.
But if you take a solid aspirin, that sits in your gut, and that can cause ulcers."
It's interesting, because when I was in the hospital, they put it in water.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because one of the things that, like some smoker convert guy preaching to everybody, because I had watched that on Netflix, the Hack Your Health documentary, The Secrets of Your Gut.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have seen that.
No, I haven't.
So I was like, it's all talking about your microbiome. And I was like, right, I'm getting on that. And I was pretty diligent with it. I totally changed my diet about a year and a bit ago, having watched that. And I was like, yeah, I felt great. Just eating way healthier and feeding my microbiomes in there. I got off ibuprofen because they obviously damage it the same as aspirin. And then they gave me some other gut thing to let it settle my gut for taking the aspirin,
That's right,
I guess. Maybe some other thing as well. I'm like, I don't really want to take that. If I can avoid it, because I'm doing all this work for building my microbiomes, and then taking these drugs that's going to kill it all off.
Yeah.
So I was That's a great idea. I need to do that. I need to do that with the aspirin, and it's definitely on my list to be looking at things on the computer, going like, what's the side effects of these drugs, and how do I counter it? With regards to the microbiome bit, because the microbiome is linked to your brain and your better health and all that kind of stuff. And if you can sort that out, then that in itself will help balance out some of the issues.
You mentioned about diet there, Robert. Have you had to make any other lifestyle changes?
For the past 3 months, really, just not doing anything physical is really throwing me off. But I trust my body telling me when to stop. So we've got, unfortunately, like where we rent this house, it's like from the Suttle estate, that there's about 50 yard long garden on it, and up the right hand side, somebody in the wisdom put Lelandias. So and it was on my jobs to do literally on the 14th of February. I've got my big list. I'm going to chop down all the tree bits that are all still, because there's even up the left side of real trees there that all needed looking after. So I was going to lob off all the bits that needed lobbing off and tidy it all up and get the Lelandia. I thought I felt fine and fit enough to be doing a bit more, and I was surprised I wasn't, because I've got like this scaffold tower for doing that I use for the higher up gardening stuff, and I was up and down the scaff tower last week, just trimming the top off and like the extra 2 or 3 feet that it's kind of shot up all of a sudden, because as Lelandias do. And I literally was like, wow, I couldn't believe how exhausted I was just doing one up the scaffold tower, chop it and down. I thought, screw this, I'll sit. So I literally did a bit, sat down and got my breath back and chilled for 10, 15 minutes, wheeled the thing along, did another bit, and did that all of last week.
I trust you've been to cardio rehab and all that sort of thing.
I've got that today. That's today. Yeah, after I chat to you fellas, I'm going to get my PE kit on.
That's quite amazing to look at the people around you and how they deal with it in a different way. I mean, I went in there and I was walking out with a guy, and he said, "This was a waste of time." And I thought, well, no, not really. But everybody's got sort of different attitudes towards it. Did you ever get an ejection fraction rate for your heart?
Oh, I don't know what that is. I might have done.
Well, if you get a chance, that gives you an understanding on how healthy your heart is.
No, they did tell me something about that. Now you're saying it.
Ejection fraction.
I may have written it down somewhere.
Yeah.
At the time, I did. I was pretty good, so I could report back to Jonathan.
Yeah.
They told me this. I was always sending them a text with numbers and stuff. But I do remember when I was looking at the ultrasound bit when they were doing the heart, and it was measuring some stuff on there, and she was like, I was like, this is like a really good, strong working heart here.
When my cardiologist came round, he explained it quite simply. He said, you've got a very strong heart, strong as an ox. He said, as your plumbing is knackered. Yeah,
that's cracking. But I mean, I didn't get that analogy, but it absolutely spot on, because that's exactly. But for the fact that I'd stayed in, they might have, had I not had a little bit more of a rumble when I said to the consultant when he came around, I said, "No, I'm still feeling there's a little bit something going on here," and that was when he's going, "Right, you've been in here 4 or 5 days now. Let's get you in now. Let's get it looked at."
Yeah,
because it was almost like they were hoping that it would be. Like, nah, he's fine, it's angina or whatever, we'll just get rid of him and give him the necessary bits. But, so I was glad that, like, my body was saying, don't let them send you out, Bob, let's get this looked at properly. And I kind of recommended that to one of my friends, like Joanne and I bumped into them at B&Q in Biggleswade, and that's the first I'd seen him since the heart attack. And he's the same age, pretty much. In our age group, and he was like, his father had died of a heart attack at 60, and he said an ECG and all that kind of stuff, and it's not showing nothing. Do you know what I mean? I'm saying, well, won't Darren? That's the thing. It's like you maybe need to get, if you can afford it, if the NHS, your doctor, GP is not going to do it with your family history, then if you can afford it, well, I've got Bupa and all that stuff, and mate, if you can afford it, and I had a look, and it's like $2,500 or something. I don't know if you get discount with work, Bupa and all that kind of stuff, but it almost feels there's probably a price worth paying in some ways, $2,500 to get that side, get the plumbing checked.
Yeah. like you, I mean, we've got heart disease in the family, and I felt my chest wasn't right, so my wife took me into A&E.
Yeah.
I was hooked up on an ECG, and I was laying there for about half an hour, and they said, "No, we can't find anything wrong." And they brought round a little pot of Gaviscon, and they gave me the Gaviscon, and they said, "We're going to just let you sit there for another 10 minutes, and then the doctor's going to come and release you." 10 minutes later, I had a heart attack on the bed with perfect ECG.
Exactly. The
ECG is reading what the heart is doing. It's not telling them what the plumbing's doing.
Absolutely.
So have you got any history in your family then, Robert?
Yeah. It's, like I said at the beginning, my father, my grandfather and his brother, my great uncle Patrick, they had both died of heart attacks.
Right.
And I mean, we're talking about in the 70s here, and they probably looked like they were 70, but I think they were nowhere near that. They were probably that 1970s, like Scots Irish drinkers, 45, 50, looking 70 from my childhood memories of them. But I'm not sure what age they were, but they definitely were. They weren't 70s, 60s. I don't think. I think they were pretty young.
So, is there an action plan for your future now?
I think
get back on the golf course as soon as possible.
I mean, if it's a personal action plan for me, I mean, I want to get back on there because I need that. I think because acting's a tough choice of career, like for anybody, even the guys at the top. You see loads of stuff with them chatting about being out of work. So when you need something for your mental health, and like I was playing golf when I was working in distribution anyway, that's where I kind of took it up. So that has been my mental health thing, keeping me grounded, giving me something to keep me exercised along with a dog. So I could easily be doing like 10 kilometres or more, 12, 13, 14 kilometres a day walking and keep me strength and all that kind of stuff. So I want to get back to that. But I think the biggest benefit for me has been, like I said, now I've had the other stents in as well. So now I've got 3 in, and the plumbing's fixed, and this blood's rushing through my head now and everything. It's like I would normally be sat here at this kind of time of day with a fuzzy head.
Yeah.
And I don't have that anymore, and that's been an absolute been a godsend, just that one in itself. So using that capacity, and I think it'll be improved more when I get off of some of the drugs, like I say, that's making me the breathless bit, because obviously that the being breathless, that you're not oxygenating as efficiently as you would be. So I think as soon as I can get off of them, the better. And then I can get back writing. I've been making films. When I came back off that job in Lithuania, it was so funny because when the consultant said to him, "Can I fly?" Like, it was literally 4 or 5 days after I had the second stents in. He was going, "Yeah, when you going?" I went, like 4 days, 5 days. And he went, "You'll be fine. You could go tomorrow, really, if you wanted."
Yeah.
With stents, with the stents we put in, you could go tomorrow if you want. And I was like, "Yay!" So I took that as like, right, I'm good to go with everything.
Yeah.
They'd put me in the 6th floor in this hotel, and I literally walked up and down the stairs every day, apart from taking my case up and bringing it back down.
Yeah.
And the first day I went up, I literally stopped like after every flight of stairs. There was 2 flights of stairs between every floor, So I was like, "Oh God, stop!" But I did it, and then on the way down, obviously dead easy going on the way down, not so big a deal. And then by the time I left, I was it was very nearly the last little flight of stairs where I was out of breath. So I thought I was building my stamina up nicely, and I just thought I had to do that because I'd like taking a big risk here and doing this job in a massive production, a multi-million-pound production that I'm doing, and I could F up.
Yeah.
And literally the first scene with an A-lister opening up the episode, playing his best mate, and I'm like, don't kill yourself, do you know what I mean? Because it could really screw up the whole thing. So I wanted to be really fit enough to get through the day, because it was a walking scene. It was just, we were on our feet, the both of us, for the whole scene, walking past stuff and and going back to your supporting actors bit, that I'd got through it and was able to have that experience, because it was one of those ones in my tick list, like to be in a big epic kind of size thing like that and be one of the main actors that was in the scene.
It's amazing, because I saw your interview on Anglia News about all this. And now you've given us the time for our podcast. So
no, I'm happy, guys, to do it. It's like it's like I said, I want to spread the word.
Well, we both say we have a positive mental attitude. Is what we give as our sort of motto on the podcast, and each day is a bonus.
It'll take you a year probably to get out of the feeling that any type of pain you get in your chest, you immediately think is related to your heart. And of course, it's not.
Coming in here now, I was like, there was something over here.
Yep.
I was going like, well, it's not in the right place for one. But, you know, and then another one here, and I'm like, I've been doing the resistance bands. I've got a resistance band attached to one of the trees in the garden, and I've been doing that.
Yep.
Yeah, well, as I said, thank you very much. And we're certainly going to spread the word, aren't we, Patrick?
Oh, yes.
We go all over the world. You know, it doesn't have to be this country.
I love that, guys. That's why I was happy to do it when you'd messaged me and I had a look. I was like, yeah, it's part of the sharing the word.
My cardiologist also said it's surprising how many people are out there that have had a heart attack and don't even know it.
Yeah, my mum did. Yeah, she died of a heart attack, but she didn't actually realise she'd had a minor one before that.
I've got a friend of mine, a golfer guy. He's now the president over at Bedfordshire Golf Club, and he's a bit younger than us by a good 15 years, I reckon. And they said that to him. They said he had a heart attack. They said, well, you've actually had one before. From what we can see,
it's amazing how they can find that out. But it's you know, if you're alive, it's good.
When you've got heart disease in the family, it's certainly a good idea to get your siblings or children checked out in their 30s stroke 40s. Not just an ECG, you know, if they can have, you can now have it like a CT angiogram, so you don't have to have the dye put in.
All right, okay.
There is a couple of hospitals, you have to pay privately for it. You don't have to go through the rigmarole of having the dye put into your veins. Because the angiogram is the only way to really find out.
Yeah, I must say to my son about that. I'm sure he's on it anyway, being in that industry.
Yeah.
You want to call it an industry, healthcare. But you know, it's been a fascinating journey so far, and like I said, I'm just enjoying. I definitely feel this past week that everything's changed. To think like 3 months ago, I'm just feeling so deflated, and lacking of energy and all that kind of stuff. And to feel now, I literally feel like, right, let's go. I've got a little business thing that I was trying to get started before the heart attack, not just the cutting the trees. So it's like, right, let's get going. Let's make films. I got making some short films with another Scottish actor friend of mine who lives in Stevenage. So, you know, I'm being way more active instead of like, whereas before thinking, oh yeah, get my whole life ahead of me and sitting on my hands waiting for other people to bring me to bring me work. I'm just going, I just want to make my own stuff now. And they're fun.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your time, Robert.
Thank you. It's lovely to chat to you guys. Lovely.
It's been a pleasure, and I'm glad you did the advert to find out what was going on.
Yeah.
So,
you know, what can I say? I am so pleased, and let's say I'm really pleased the BBC saw the merit and the message for you guys to see me as well, because it's all the domino effect, isn't it? And hopefully we you guys for your podcast as well are doing a great job, and I've enjoyed listening to the ones that I've listened to now since been acquainted, so I enjoyed that.
Thank you.
Well, I wish you all the best for your cardio this afternoon.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Don't overdo it, because they give you some really big weights.
I've got enough time to get there.
Yeah, and a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, guys. Have a lovely day.
Thanks, Robert. Thank you.
Best wishes to you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Well,
that was good.
That was good. And if that hasn't opened people's eyes to getting checked for chest pains and one thing and another, then nothing will, I don't think.
But that's the message that Robert wanted to get across, wasn't it? You know.
Yeah.
So, and I think via our podcast, people listening to it, if they get any tweaks, or don't leave it, because it's the men who sort of leave it more than the women. But you don't hear so many women have heart attacks.
No, you don't hear about it, but I think that's just as many.
Because we talk about it and the women don't.
Well, they always think it's because it's a man's disease or an illness for some unknown reason. I think that's because, years ago, that was always the man who was the breadwinner in a family doing the strenuous job, carrying the stress. So they associate it with a man, but no, it's really as common in women today as it is in men. So any chest pain is worth
get it sorted.
Well, that's another podcast in the can, Martin.
Yes, and I want to thank everybody who's listened.
Well,
I'll see you next week, Patrick.
Yep. Thanks very much, everybody, for listening. I hope you enjoyed that. And we'll see you again next week.
See you, everybody. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Who's Tom and Dick podcast with your hosts, Martin Weavers and Patrick Mortimer. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the show on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite streaming platform. New episodes are available every Friday. Thanks for tuning in.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.